higher purpose. Your misery is your ministry. Your pain is your purpose. Your suffering is your service. Your mess becomes your message. Your test becomes your testimony. God allows us to hurt to heal others because you cannot heal what you cannot feel. So don't let the pain of your past punish your present and paralyze your progress and purpose. Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca. I've always panicked to some degree when I lose control, but I usually have some sort of an escape or a way to center myself. In quarantine, those things have been hard to find, especially this past week. I've adopted the mess around me as if I have no choice in how I act and treat people. I found myself speaking before listening and reacting before thinking. It's been difficult, especially for those around me. How about you, Michael? What has this week felt like?
Amazing. This quarantine period has been really, really frustrating for me. Being at home and not being able to do the things that I used to do, just like going outside to run, exercise, go to the gym, and run into John. I can't do those things anymore. And I've decided not to let this test, affect the way I live, this pain. So what I've been doing is I've been getting around things. For example, I exercise in my living room. That's amazing. I do jumping jacks. I do burpees and stuff like that, and I open my fridge like 200 times a day. It's amazing. Even though I know what's in my fridge. Anyway, so the way I get around it is I look online, YouTube, and I get new recipes and I cook. So I want to encourage you, don't let this period affect the way you live. What do you think, Melvin?
Michael, I agree. The refrigerator thing is really affecting me. I look at the phrase, your test becomes your testimony. I think we're all being tested right now. I wouldn't say cooped up with our family, but we're pretty much enclosed in our houses and, dealing with the different personalities on a 24-hour basis, eating out of house and home. But I think when this is all over, we're going to be able to have a testimony on how we survived this, as we did 9/11, as we did the riots, the unrest. We're just so thankful, first of all, to still be here and to continue to get through this. As the saying says, this too shall pass. So I'm excited about what's in store as we just live through the times that we're now, and we know we're all going to be okay. With that being said, I just want to give a couple of updates. First of all, again, good morning, Turnaround Tuesday. As you know, I'm Melvin, and just want to give you some updates on where we are. We've been working behind the scenes with our build partners. There may be several opportunities that we may be able to provide some assistance for our families in reference to maybe some food giveaways, but we don't have all the particulars right now. And when we do, we will provide updates. So we just want to thank our build partners for being involved, as we always are. We all step up collectively as leaders in this city. So we're excited about what's in store. We do have some, we've been in contact with our partners at our major institutions, at our hospitals. There may be some job opportunities that are coming about. We're waiting for phone calls. As you know, they're expanding hospital beds at different locations off sites outside of the hospital. So we will be ready when called. So I'm going to turn it over to Bree, who can give some more updates on where we are with jobs.
All right. Thank you, Melvin. Good morning, everyone. So this week, I just have two updates. The first update is that our coaches, community partners, and volunteers have reached out to us to find out what is it that they could do to help us along in our processes. I spoke with Maryland Legal Aid. He called on Monday. We had a scheduled appointment, and he just really wanted to know how and what can he do to help us stay engaged with our participants. So we're working on a plan in making sure that some of you will be getting phone calls from some of our coaches and definitely from Maryland Legal Aid. So we're working on that. And secondly, as I mentioned last week, we talked about having two teams here at Turnaround Tuesday. Right now we have the support awareness team led by Michelle Benjamin and the jobs team led by John Robinson. So this week they are meeting with their teams and having a plan of execution. So you can look forward to that coming sometime this week. So next up is our spiritual vitamin. So JC, what you got for us?
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start with a quote from the writer named Dorothy Thomas. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. Often we try to avoid conflict by not dealing with it at all. The key is to not to avoid it, but to learn how to resolve it in a healthy way. Let's be honest with ourselves. Mismanaged conflict can cause great harm, especially when faced with it in the wrong place in the wrong time. But if handled in a respectful and positive way, conflicts provides the opportunity to strengthen the bond between two people. It costs nothing for you to love and respect each other. No one says you must get along. Growing up, my grandmother always taught me, respect costs nothing, but not having it will cost you everything. And I'll end this by giving you 10 ways to love, respect, and resolve conflict in positive ways. 10 ways to love. Listen without interrupting. Speak without accusing. Give without sparing. Pray without ceasing. Answer without arguing. Share without pretending. Enjoy without complaint. Trust without wavering. Forgive without punishing. Promise without forgetting. And again, always remember, peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. How do you feel about that, Thomas?
Well, I feel pretty good. I think that list is an outstanding list. The one that really stands out to me is listening without interrupting. I think oftentimes in listening to people, we assume what they're going to say and we'll cut them off and think that they're saying one thing when in all actuality they're saying something differently. Just this weekend, my wife and I, being caught in this house together like this, I created some separation by going down in the basement and I was working on my book. She came down into the kitchen and she was talking to me, but I was not listening to her. And she kept talking, but I still was not listening to her. And then she asked me a question and I just burst out, said, "What?" And that kind of made her feel bad. I hurt her feelings because she had interrupted me, but in all actuality, I realized that what I was doing was interrupting her because I was not listening. And so all she wanted to do was know what it was that I wanted to eat. So how about you, Michelle?
I think for me, these ways to love are amazing. The one that I have the hardest time with, I think right now, is enjoying without complaint. Given our current circumstances, it's really, really easy, and the restrictions that we have on us, it's really easy to complain about this, right? I can't do this, I can't do that, I want to do this, I can't do this. And normally our minds tend to go towards that. We always tend to go towards complaining instead of being grateful for this time. This is a really good time to take time to get to know your partner, to spend time with your family, potentially to care for your loved ones who may need caring for. So I just want to really center myself and remember that I need to be grateful and express gratitude for this time. Practicing gratitude will really help to calm that conflict in me and really enable me to continue to think about these times and what I can do in this time to be beneficial to other people and to myself, and learning how to really work through that conflict within myself.
Well, I don't know about you all, but I really had a reality check this weekend about this social distancing. Now, for me, I've obeyed everything, and being an island girl, I stayed in the house for a good week and a half, and I finally stepped out. And I was just excited to be outside, just waving, "Good morning, hello, how are you?" And I walk into the local convenience store, Walgreens, and there I am. I turn the corner, and this man with a mask and gloves on takes 5 huge steps back. And I felt offended. My feelings were kind of hurt because I took offense, like I had the disease or something. But I quickly learned the seriousness of the time that we're in. So I don't know about you, Cheryl. What's it been like for you with the social distancing?
Yeah, so I think about it at home. It's been pretty serious, actually, and really tough. My husband's in healthcare, and he's exposed a lot. And he had to make this really tough decision we were struggling with, like, does he live at home with us still when he is exposed and expose me and our kids? Or do we try to set up something in our house? And so we've basically done social distancing in our house, which is really challenging, let me tell you, because we're used to interacting in a different way. And so our whole house just feels really different. So he walks in, he has to take his clothes off and go right into the laundry room and shower. And like, it's just bizarre. It's not our usual routine. He sits down at the table for food and he's not touching the refrigerator if we were serving him. And that can set me off a little bit, the waiting on someone and just the interaction still like not being normal, right? I mean, I'm being human, right? I love my husband, but it's, and like he'll touch a doorknob and we'll wipe it down. Can you imagine how he feels, right? Like I'm like covered, and it's just, it's had a really tough effect. But I was thinking of that, JC, your 10 ways to love. And I love that trust without wavering. So I'm grateful that he's home with us. And if he becomes ill, we'll take care of him here. We'll just isolate in separate spaces. But I'm trusting and hoping that we will get through this with strength and kindness to each other, because it's a challenge.
What about you, John, and the social distancing?
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I am having some really serious challenge with the social distance. I experienced a situation like Bree. I was moving some stuff out of my storage unit, and a couple was trying to move a couch. And one lady was very struggling with the couch. And I said, I like to assist because my natural desire to help people. And they were very apprehensive. No, please. They pushed me away. They were like, please don't go near me. And it just dawned on me like, wow, this is really serious. This social distance is really serious. People are so paranoid that they're willing to drop the couch on the floor and hurt themselves as opposed to be close to each other. So it dawned on me that, wow, this is really serious. So I guess we need to really kind of take that very, very seriously. Terrell, what do you think?
Well, I think that, first, hi, Turnaround Tuesday family. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a hugger. I love to hug. I love to love on people. And so this is really, really hard for me. But one thing I realized in conflict situations, you've got to really understand the problem and how to get rid of it or mitigate it. And right now, the problem is the virus, and the way to mitigate it is social distancing. So no matter how many conflicts that causes, I realize that I have to do the right thing and not only protect me and my family, but I got to protect other people, which means I have to stay my butt at home. And so I understand that is necessary in this time. And I hope our entire Turnaround Tuesday family understands also that we have to stay at home. So with that in mind, I'd like to talk about this conflict that we're having in this day. As we said, conflict is everywhere. You can't get away from it. And the question becomes, what happens when we ignore conflict at the initial stage? What we say is, in many cases, if you don't take care of conflict when it happens, other conflict happens, right? Think about, those of us who have lost jobs. It's more than just losing a job. I mean, you're thinking about, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to feed the kids? Or people who have been incarcerated, or people who are incarcerated. It's not just the person who leaves. It's all the things that the family loses when the person leaves and is incarcerated. So it's not that one single thing, even like social distancing. It's not just the social distancing. It is all the things that it means for people that's used to shaking hands and hugging each other and all those things. So what I'd like to do is first start with this thing that we call the conflict model, which talks about the fact that if you don't take care of a conflict immediately, in many cases, it gets worse, right? The first stage is the latent stage. That is the stage where there's a conflict, something's happening, but you don't do anything about it. I mean, think about this virus. When it first came, it started, we believe, in China, right? And we believe that the Chinese didn't say anything about it. They just, did whatever they could do behind their closed doors. And while this conflict was happening, many of us didn't know about it, or people who knew about it sort of ignored it. And as they ignored it, it got worse. It goes to the conflict emergence stage where something happens in the United States. Someone gets sick in Washington State, and then it gets our attention, right? And we haven't prepared for this, and we don't know how to react to this because this is something new. And instead of us investigating and letting people know, we get afraid and we don't share until the conflict escalation happens. And that could be triggered by New York. Let's say New York getting these big spike in cases. Now everybody's shattered. We really don't know what to do because now it has hit our shores. And we realize that one of the remedies, the experts say to us, one of the remedies is this social distancing, which is another conflict because we're not accustomed to that. And so now we're fighting those stages where other people have now at the conflict escalation stage, other people are getting involved. So there are more and more people who are getting sick, which is causing us to become more and more isolated, which really goes against our very, very nature. And as we continue to do that, a conflict goes to the next stage when it's not taken care of. And that's the hurting stage. That is the place where people are absolutely isolated and you feel like nothing's being done. You don't know what to do and everybody's conflicted and many, many things happen. For instance, my son called me last week and he said to me, "Pops, can you do me a favor? I need you to keep the kids for several hours until my wife get off work." And any other time, I would jump at the chance to keep my grandchildren. But for a split second, I thought, what if they hurt me? What if I hurt them? And then the other thing that quickly got into my brain is if I take too long to think, my son is going to think he cannot depend on me in a time of crisis. So immediately I say yes. And then when I got off the phone, I really thought about it. And in normal circumstances, I would have never thought about it. So this social distancing is really hard for us. But in time of conflict, we must do those things that are difficult. And so right now we're in the hurting stage. And the question is, in this hurting stage, how will you act in this space? If you don't, and ideally what we're trying to do is get to the next stage, and that's the de-escalation stage. And that's a stage where, those PPEs, what do they call them? Personal protective equipment shows up in all of our hospitals and our doctors and our nurses and our people clean our emergency rooms and people who feed our patients. All of them feel protected. It's a place where society, anybody who wants a test, gets a test, right? It is that point where we are striving to just get back to normal, and getting back to normal means that we can come back together and we can help each other in a time of crisis versus running away from each other. So I continue to say to us, in this time of crisis, we've got to be patient. We've got to be calm. We've got to be caring. We've got to be hopeful, because do understand, we will come out of this, and we will need each other. Social distancing hopefully will be over, and we can come back to hugging each other, supporting each other, and sitting down at restaurants together, and bars together, and churches together, all those things that we love to do. But in this time, we have to understand that there is a conflict. And the conflict is, will you social distance? Because all of our lives depend on it. I like to go to this quote that really, really helps me in a time of strife and tension, and that is, what if you could become more awesome without doing anything extreme, simply by changing slowly and steadily into the kind of person you admire the most? So in this time of crisis, in this time of conflict, the question really is, who are you? Can you be awesome? Can you take all of those things that you learned, not only in Turnaround Tuesday, but in your own very lives, and use that today in this moment of crisis so that all of us can come out of it as winners. And it depends on how well we act in this moment. So please, just like me, I'm sitting in my home, sit in your homes, reflect, engage with your families. We cannot, unfortunately, we cannot engage together right now, but that day will come when we are back hugging and loving and doing all of those things. But just understand today, in this moment of crisis, in this moment of conflict, we have to do what must be done. And that is, we must stay in our own homes, take care of ourselves and our families. And there are resources out there, and Michelle will come now and talk to us about a few of those. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Terrell. Good morning, Turnaround Tuesday. So we've heard about a few different types of conflicts today, and I'm going to provide some resources to help with some of those different types of conflict. First, we have that internal conflict that I kind of touched upon when I was talking about the ways to love before. And so we have some mental wellness resources here that can help with that. You know, there's helplines and the crisis line. If you're really feeling like you can't manage and you're having a really hard time dealing, please use these resources to help you get through this time. Then we have the external conflict, right? Some people may be having some issues around food or food resources. Here I have a few, but in the next day or two, I'm gonna upload some more to the website. So continue to check to make sure that you have everything that you need at home. Like Terrell said, we are mandated to stay inside, but you are allowed to go out and grab some food and the things that you need to sustain your household. After that, we have some financial resources because financial conflict is a thing as well. You know, we are in this time where people are losing employment. We are in this time where bills are piling up. And so we do have the link for unemployment here. You know, unemployment is on the rise, but there's a lot more resources designated towards unemployment. So please apply. You know, it doesn't hurt to apply. If you get it, it's definitely going to be worth it to help you sustain throughout this time. I've also included some resources about the stimulus. We've heard a lot about the stimulus check and all the things that might be available to us in the upcoming future, but there are some guidelines. One of the guidelines are you must have filed your taxes in 2018. If you've already filed for 2019, great. They will use that information, but they need to have a basis of where your income is. So individually, the highest income that you can make individually will be $75,000. And that doesn't mean that if you made more than $75,000, you can't receive it. It just means that the ultimate amount will be deducted. So that's an individual amount. There's also $150,000 if you're filing jointly with someone else. So you just need to look over those guidelines. The website will be provided so that you can look it over and see where you fall within those categories. And then lastly, a lot of people have had bills piling up. So one of the things Terrell mentioned was that that scale of escalation, right? And not addressing the financial conflict that's within ourselves. Oh, if I don't talk about this bill and if I don't pay it, it's just gonna be fine. And that's not a reality. The reality is that if you know that you have bills coming up that you can't pay, you do have to call these individual agencies and speak to them about your circumstances. Most agencies are willing to defer payment for a period of time, but they're not going to do that automatically. You have to reach out and let them know what your circumstances are. So again, all these resources are available. Also on that resource sheet, my phone number is there. If you have any further questions or anything else that we can help with, please feel free to reach out. Continue to stay strong, stay home, take care of each other, and remember, the underlying thing that's going to help you pull through and get rid of this catastrophic thinking and circulating around the issue is going to be gratitude. Be grateful for where we are and what we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. We just want to continue to encourage Turnaround Tuesday to tune in every week as we continue to provide video Turnaround Tuesday sessions. We want to continue to thank the staff for working hard to continue to stay in contact with each and every one of you as we continue to prepare you for work, because again, this too shall pass. I would like to take this opportunity to close in prayer.
Melvin,
As we do it.
Yes,
sure.
Add something to the prayer.
Sure.
We hold in our prayers, withholding judgment on others. There's some shame that comes with people thinking they exposed others. there's a sense that it may have started in China, but we don't blame the Chinese. Viruses could start anywhere. I know Asian Americans have suffered from that in our country now. And anyone who like inadvertently exposed someone and didn't know, that we're holding all people in prayer, that they feel whole and loved. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Sure. Let us pray, Turnaround Tuesday. Father God, we just come once again just to say thank you. In spite of it all, God, we continue to say thank you. We ask, God, that you just continue to not only bless Baltimore and bless the state of Maryland, to bless this nation and to bless the world. As Cheryl said, God, please forgive those that shame others. We ask, God, at the same time that you take hold and bless the leadership, God. Give them the strength and guidance to help us all to get through this. We have a special prayer for each one of our Turnaround Tuesday participants and their families. We ask, God, that you provide them with everything that they need. We ask, God, that you bring peace to homes during this time. Lord, we just thank you for continuing to be in the midst. We know, God, that you will make this well. I thank you, God, for our Turnaround Tuesday staff, for our coaches, for our leaders, the board of directors, for our volunteers. We just ask, God, that you just keep everybody up, that we all look to the hills from where our strength comes. Now, God, we just ask that you keep us all in prayer. In Jesus' name, in the name of our Father, amen.
Amen. Michael.
Wow, we need to exercise.
I
Exercise.
You guys
No,
are not
no,
going to do exercise. So
no.
make sure you walk in your house, do push-ups, do jumping jacks, anything you can do. But right here, we're going to do something like this. Let's go.
Oh, man.
Okay. Do it. All right.
Wait. Wow. Bye. Thank you and bye-bye. We love you.
See you guys.